Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Thursday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing great out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to bring you the latest on the weather. Of course, the first thing we'll talk about is the tropics. It is very active out there in the Atlantic. But I just want to say this right off the dot. There is no threat of a hurricane anytime soon. There continues to be rumors. They're spreading like wildfires out there that there's another storm coming. So be careful what you share on social media. Make sure it's a reliable source. And I would argue it's not a reliable source if it's, saying there's another hurricane coming in the next several days. I've seen some wild stuff like, there's another hurricane coming in 3 weeks. Folks, we struggle enough to get the weather right 7 days out. Nobody knows what it's going to do 3 weeks from now. So just remember that kind of stuff. That's why I don't make seasonal forecasts. I actually read a comment this morning saying, once again, Mitch, when are you going to make your 2024, 2025 winter forecast? I don't do that kind of stuff because we struggle as it is figuring out the weather 7 days out. So I just wanted to clear the air with that. And I'll continue to kind of say that in each and every video until I quit hearing it in my neck of the woods, because I'm hearing it from friends, family, and neighbors and all that stuff. So we'll talk about the tropics. We do have a big system out there in the Atlantic right now. No threat whatsoever. We have an area of interest that we'll speak on, the Gulf of Mexico, and then we got Leslie behind Hurricane Kirk. So we'll speak on all that, get you updated. We'll talk about what's going to happen weather-wise across the entire lower 48 for your Thursday. And then we'll talk about a cold front on the way for the eastern U.S. And yes, this does include the southeast. It's been pretty warm over the last 3 or 4 weeks. We had to cool down in late August, early September. But since then, we really haven't had fall. We've just had these, tropical threats, muggy conditions. But that's going to change. Confidence is pretty high that we're going to get a cold front early next week. So we're going to speak on that also. So if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. We are certainly praying for you folks that were impacted by Helene. A lot of people were. It's been hard to even get in a good mood at work this week, because every time I do, it's almost like I feel guilty because I know so many people are struggling out there. So we're praying for you folks pretty hard. So with that being said, let's get rocking and rolling. So let's make sure this is going to work for us. And it is, so we're good to go. If I call this Hurricane Isaac, I do apologize. I don't know why I've actually had to start the video over a couple times because I keep calling it Isaac. It is Kirk. This is Hurricane Kirk, major hurricane, Category 3, well on its way to becoming a Category 4. It's not bothering anybody out here except the surface of the ocean and the fishes at the sea, and it is a fish storm. It'll continue to kind of go this way. It's a very impressive hurricane. It really blew up last night, but this is well on its way to already heading north, and eventually will head northeast and not bother anybody. Now, there's a system behind it. This is Leslie. This is just a sloppy tropical storm right now, but this will become a hurricane too. Now, we are watching to see if the outflow from Kirk affects kind of the short to medium term strengthening of Leslie. But I think eventually it doesn't matter, because Kirk is going to head on out to sea, continue. It's already out to sea. I got to stop saying that. It's already out to sea. Will continue to be out to sea and get out the way. And then any kind of what we call outflow or anything like that, almost like a whiplashing kind of mechanism here, will move north and will not affect Leslie anymore. And I think Leslie will really have an opportunity to strengthen as we get maybe into like this weekend into early next week. So the big question with Leslie is it might not be as clear of an out to sea route as Kirk. Leslie could hang a little bit further south for a little bit longer and then maybe turn out to sea here. But there is still some members on the ensemble guidance that shows us getting very close to the Leeward Islands. So we're going to speak on that. And then we got just a bunch of unsettled weather in areas of the Gulf of Mexico that we are watching that has a shot to develop. So that's what's going on right now. No threat to the U.S., no threat to anybody right now. But, that could change. We're still in hurricane season. Latest from the National Hurricane Center. Kirk, 120 mile per hour Category 3 major hurricane. Moving northwest, so it's already moving north at 10 miles per hour. We got Leslie right behind it. It's a 40 mile per hour tropical storm. Got dubbed a name last night, and it's well on its way to strengthening. And then we have this area of interest right here. This actually dropped from, it was a 50% at one point, went from 50 to 40. Now it's down to just a low risk of developing, which is at a 30% chance of tropical depression or a named storm developing sometime in the next 7 days. So we're still watching this area. Still some wacky model guidance from this area, and we're going to continue to monitor it for sure. So I do want to speak just a little bit on the cones, for Leslie and Kirk. Kirk right here, 120 mile per hour category 3 hurricane. Sometime this afternoon will become a 130 mile per hour category 4 hurricane, and then could strengthen as high end as a 140 mile per hour hurricane sometime tonight. But then it'll start to move due north this weekend and then make that track that tells us it's a fish storm to the northeast. But I mean, we still need to watch our friends up here, in areas of Europe, United Kingdom, stuff like that, because sometimes when these fish storms turn north and then northeast, they can bring impacts to you guys too. So we're certainly hoping that that does not happen. And then we got Leslie right here. Leslie will become a hurricane maybe sometime this weekend, and it is forecast to become as high end as a 105 mile per hour category 2 hurricane by sometime early next week. And right now it has it taken a path that where Kirk is right now. So it could take the same path, but listen, I am watching for this cone to maybe get shunted south a little bit. Leeward Islands right in here, Windward Islands, Lesser Antilles. How close is this going to get? So I would certainly, continue to watch this if you're in the Leeward Islands. Okay, and I know I got some viewers from that area. I would watch Leslie. Not sounding any alarms or anything like that, but certainly watch it. So the latest GFS, and I want to speak on these for a few minutes here. Kirk is going to head out to sea. This is Kirk, going to head out to sea. No doubt about it. This is Leslie down here. Watch as we continue to move forward. There goes Kirk. See you later. Powerful hurricane. Very impressive, but heading out to sea. Here comes Leslie. Hanging a little bit further south. Drops all the way down to a 967 millibar hurricane by Sunday morning. Starts to inch a little bit further north in latitude. Okay, but it's not abruptly turning. Kind of gets where Kirk got. Getting to Monday, getting to Tuesday, and then finally it heads on out to sea. Okay, and it kind of, turns out to sea maybe a tick further west than what Kirk did. But GFS is full send on this turning out to sea and not bothering anybody. Now let's look at the Euro. Euro a little different. Kirk heading out to sea. There it is right here. Leslie right here. Here it comes. Hanging south. Sunday. Hurricane at this point. Monday. Tuesday. Wednesday. It's not turning north. When are you going to turn north? We get into Thursday. It's heading due west. And then we get into next Friday, which is getting pretty far out. I know we're getting 8 days out. And it gets pretty close to the Leeward Islands and the Lesser Antilles. And then it finally looks like it's going to start to head out to sea at the end of the frame 10 days from now. So there's a good chance we're going to be talking about Leslie for a while. Now, what about the Euro AI model? Kirk heading on out. Here comes Leslie right here. Same thing as the Euro model. Hangs low in latitude, gets very close, even closer than the Euro to the Leeward Islands. Okay, this is about 7.5 days from now. Next Thursday evening, pretty much a week from today, we got a major hurricane just northeast of the Leeward Islands. Okay, and then it finally turns out to sea pretty abruptly. So we got to watch this. And if you look at the European ensemble, we're just going to go 1 week out, 180 hours out. Okay, you see these lines. Here, let's draw on this a little bit. You see these lines right into here? This is Kirk. Okay, so ignore that. These members right here that kind of come from this area, this is Leslie. Okay, you got a lot of members into here that looks like they're pretty much heading out to sea. Okay, but you got some of these members down here. I wouldn't say some, there's a lot that hang pretty low. Okay, it looks like some are gonna, actually hit like down here. So this is stuff we gotta watch. We gotta watch these trends right in here. We gotta watch these members. Does it increase in members? Does it decrease? I think it would be dangerous to flat out say Leslie is just a full-fledged fish storm. I am very confident in saying that with Kirk. Leslie, not so much. And I've kind of talked about that over the last few days. I don't think Leslie is as cut and dry as Kirk. I really don't. So if you see any movement behind me, Rocket is chilling behind me. There he is laying on the bed. So I think most of the audience knows who Rocket is now. Just my cat likes to hang out in here with me. But Friday morning, we're going to switch gears and look at the Gulf of Mexico. What's going on in the Gulf of Mexico? We get into Friday, whole lot of grain, just a lot of tropical moisture, nothing organizing, just this area of low pressure that's kind of being kept down the Gulf of Mexico. This is really going to start to bring a lot of rain to the peninsula of Florida. I mean, anywhere from Jacksonville Point south. The further south you get, the more rain. And this is going to just bring rounds of rain for you folks. So what we watch for is any kind of consolidation of energy. On the latest GFS, we get all the way to next Tuesday, October the 8th. And it just never fully develops anything. But it does bring just a big slug of moisture into late this weekend, into all the way into midweek next week. Heck, all the way into late next work week. Look at all this tropical moisture. I think we have a very rainy next 7 to 10 days for Florida coming up. Between now and, I would say between now and the weekend, just occasional shower and storm action. But as we get to the end of the weekend, Tuesday, we get into Wednesday, look at all that tropical moisture. And we got L's popping up here. We could have some consolidation and then maybe get a full-fledged tropical system. That's ultimately why you do have that 30% chance of something developing, but nothing ever fully gets going. You look at the Euro, looks very similar. A lot of tropical moisture Sunday, Monday morning. Look at all that green. And then you get into Monday evening. Look at all the green over Florida. You get into Tuesday, a lot of green over Florida. Just think of that as a lot of shower and storm activity, some breezy conditions. Nothing ever fully gets going, though. No all-out tropical system. But I will tell you, and that's not a forecast. That could change. That could change very quickly. But I can tell you rainfall between now and Thursday morning of next week, October the 10th, a lot of rain is possible, but there is a sharp gradient. Guys, believe it or not, I think the Southeast can get pretty dry pretty fast. Once you get into central Georgia, South Carolina, northern Alabama, everything points north. We could go through a pretty substantial stretch of no rain. Florida, totally different story. Once you get down to Jacksonville Point south, a few to several inches of rain is possible, especially for the west coast of Florida. Tampa down to Fort Myers, Sarasota, you guys, several inches of rain is possible just over the next week. And it's still going to be raining after this time frame too. So a lot of rain on the way, and you still got to watch the risk of a tropical system developing out of this. So that's an update on the tropics we were watching. No threats of any kind of hurricane or anything like that, despite what you're seeing. So just be careful what you share. So as far as what's happening out there right now, folks, it is a quiet morning out here across the lower 48. We got rain, a little streak of rain going across southern South Dakota, areas of southern North Dakota, areas of directional tongue twister, northern South Dakota, but not a big deal. Maybe a little shower activity up here in Maine, and we do have some tropical moisture dancing around across the peninsula of Florida. Outside of that, it's pretty calm conditions. Watches, warnings, and advisories. High wind watches up for Montana and the northern plains. There's a big windstorm on the way for you folks. Karen, I know you're in Montana. As we get into late tomorrow, into the weekend, man, we're talking about 40 to as much as 60 mile per hour wind gusts. Big windstorm coming up here. Heat continues to flex here in California and the Southwest. We have some red flag warnings. Also, we could have a big time fire danger here in areas of Nevada and surrounding states. Be aware of that. Wildfire risk is going to be high. I was talking to a buddy, his name's Bryce. He lives in Nevada now, and they are certainly concerned about that. So hopefully nothing gets going. But we got excessive heat warnings, heat advisories across areas of the Southwest. We got dense fog across the Alps and just west of it. So the excessive rainfall outlook, there's nothing really to look at. There's no risk of flooding as of now. The risk of severe weather, no real risk of severe weather either. Just some pockets out here where we do run our general risk of thunderstorms. Not a huge deal at all, but we're certainly watching this. But there's not a whole lot to watch. As far as there being something to watch, maybe you watch Florida for a strong to severe storm. We could get some outflow boundary driven storms here in the peninsula of Florida. Some storms possible can roll through the central areas of the state. Could get some pop-up downpours up here in Georgia, areas of South Carolina. Big push of moisture into southeast Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southern Alabama. And then we wake up tomorrow morning to, what could be a stretch of rainy, cloudy conditions across Mobile, Biloxi, Gulfport. Pensacola could start to get some rain, shower and storm activity, but waking up for your Friday morning for some rain along the Gulf Coast in certain areas. Big slug of storms kind of affecting the Florida Keys, and some showers up here in the southern Alps region also. So that's The next 24 hours up here in the Northeast, quiet weather. I'm hearing that you guys are getting peak fall foliage up here in the inland areas of New England. I've seen some pictures. It looks beautiful up here. You know, believe it or not, me and my family are really thinking about taking a trip this Christmas up here in this area, just finding kind of one of those Christmassy towns. You got any recommendations for something like that? Definitely put in the comments. Either this Christmas or either next Christmas. We've been talking to the girls. We might take a trip here in the next year and a half. You know, somewhere that is guaranteed snow. You know, just really has like that Hallmark Christmas vibe. So definitely put something in the comments if you got it. We want to do Christmas in the city too, and as crazy as that sounds, I would love to go to New York City around Christmas time and kind of get the Christmas in the city, you know, vibe out there. But anyways, just killing a little bit of time, you know, since we're rolling through this. But the Northeast, beautiful weather today, nothing going on. South Central U.S., we're going to get some rain and storm activity that pushes into the Bayou of Louisiana all the way up to maybe Baton Rouge. Like I said, Biloxi, Gulfport, we'll get some storms later this evening. We get into tomorrow morning and just waking up to a little bit of shower and storm activity, maybe just off the coast of Galveston and Louisiana, Alabama, and Mississippi. But everybody else is pretty calm. The North Central U.S., same thing. Not a whole lot going on. Very quiet weather. It's been quiet up here for quite some time now. A little bit of shower, light rain activity might get going in Iowa. And eventually just in areas of the Midwest as we're waking up tomorrow morning, but not a whole lot going on. The Western U.S., quiet 24 hours, but a system will start to enter your screen here in the corner. And a big system moves in as a cold front, kind of a trough, begins to dig down. And this is actually going to set the stage for a big-time cool down across the eastern U.S., but this is a big storm system moving in. We're starting to see this more and more because we're just getting deeper into the fall season now. But big time rainstorm and windstorm on the way for the Pacific Northwest. And if I actually move this further, you know, and start to get to, it looks like the moisture becomes a little bit starved, which we definitely need the moisture with the rain. I mean, we definitely need the moisture with the wind because we don't want any wildfires. But we're starting to see certainly some winter weather showing up more and more. But the wind is what I'm concerned about, and this is really getting into tomorrow night into the weekend. Very strong winds. I mean, you get into obviously the higher peaks, the Rockies in Montana and Wyoming. I mean, you're going to get those 60 to 80 mile per hour wind gusts, but even in the lower elevations, I mean, 30, 40, 50 mile per hour wind gusts are possible across Montana. Definitely stay tuned to your local people for, you know, local wind gusts. But, you know, Wyoming, of course, we got the notorious area here in southeast Wyoming that's always pumping out those very strong winds around Laramie and places like that. And then we got the strong winds even across the plains of the Dakotas and eastern Montana. I mean, 40, 50, 60 mile per hour wind gusts are likely in this area. So just be mindful of a big windstorm coming. Temperatures today, warm across the eastern U.S. I mean, you would even say this is warm for the Northeast. A muggy, still warm. You know, there's pockets here in the Ohio Valley that's comfortable. Certainly 70s, lower humidity. But once you get south of a boundary, it gets into the 70s and 80s, but higher humidity. And then it's still hot across the southern and central plains, 80s and 90s. Cooler up here across the northern terrain of the country. Hotter down here in the southwest. So there is relief coming for the eastern U.S. If you've been wondering where did fall go and you live in the eastern U.S., well, you know, I'm wondering it too. It's kind of quietly snuck away from us, but it's going to quietly, maybe even abruptly come back. This is the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the 8th through the 12th of October. And the blue has showed back up on your screen for the eastern U.S. Unfortunately, if you live in the central and western U.S., there's a pretty high confidence level that we're going to have above average temperatures. But confidence is pretty high in the eastern U.S. in the blue for below average temperatures. That does include my state. Thank the good Lord. We look at the 8 to 14 day temperature outlook too. This takes us clear through the middle portion of October. Below average temperatures still are looking likely for the eastern U.S. So, if you look at dew points, it's a great way to gauge where a cold front is. It separates moist air with dry air. So, you know, you see the brown on your screen. This is more dry air. The green is moist air. Dew points in the 60s and higher is definitely more muggy conditions, more humid conditions. Once you get below 60 into the 50s and lower in dew points, That's when you get drier conditions, that kind of that crisp feel outside, especially once you get into the 40s. So I just always want to explain that before I show you guys this. But we get into Sunday afternoon, cold front surging through the Midwest, starting to get to the Mississippi Valley. By the time we're waking up Monday morning of next week, October the 7th, cold front pushing through the Mid-South, the Ohio Valley. And then, folks, by the time we get into Tuesday morning, October the 8th, we got a cold front moving to the Carolinas, the Deep South. Does this make it all the way to Florida? We're going to keep this going here in a second. But, I mean, look here in the Northeast. Cold front is cleared all the way through. This is definitely one of those healthy cold fronts that really makes it through. You know, we get into Wednesday morning about 6 days from now. Look at the dew points into the 50s in Columbia. Can it get down to Florida? Well, you know, the further out we get, the little bit more lower confidence we get. But we take it about a week out, October the 10th, and this cold front does make it to North Florida. So pretty impressive. I mean, and it looks like it gets all the way down to Central Florida. But certainly, you know, we get about 8 days from now, and most of the eastern U.S. is covered with a beautiful air mass. Very crisp, nice, a fall-like air mass. And if you look at temperatures, which is probably what most people want to see, you know, with this air mass. We look at Monday morning, and, you know, these are like low temperatures Monday morning. 60, still above average, 70s in Florida. But look at this pretty stout dividing line right here where the cold front is, with that cool air kind of ushering in. And that's what it is. Behind this cold front, you know, you keep this going. We still get a warm day next Monday, 80s across the Deep South and Southeast. The cold front starts to move in, and we wake up Tuesday morning. You know, that those cooler temperatures in the 50s start to ooze a little bit further south. Maybe one last warmish day Tuesday, like in the southern sections of the Gulf states. But then we start to get into Wednesday morning, when we really start to get into like that pumpkin spice latte air is what I like to call it. But definitely some chilly conditions. You'll need a coat or a hoodie or something, certainly across the Ohio Valley. And then it really reinforces as we're getting into Thursday. And then look at next Friday, man. Talking about chilly conditions. You know, this is, you know, I thought about not even mentioning this, but, you know, there's a big conversation on social media about, you know, going to see the fall colors in Western North Carolina. You know, you got 75% of people saying do not travel to Western North Carolina whatsoever. And obviously, that's a pretty obvious thing right now. But and then you got 25% of people who live up there saying, you know, the tourist season certainly helps these smaller towns and stuff like that. So it's an interesting debate on social media about that, reading it. So we certainly need to respect you folks that live up there and the resources situation and stuff like that. I actually had, you know, a couple months ago took off. The October 11th is actually my birthday. And I actually took off the 11th to kind of go up there by myself and just chill, kind of ride the parkway. But the parkway is going to be closed, so I'm not sure what I'm going to do on the 11th. But me and my wife actually had plans to go to Lake Junaluska. I think some people call it Juanaluska. You guys know what I mean. Right outside the Waynesville, North Carolina area. And we were actually taking kind of just we haven't taken a getaway in a very long time, of the 18th into the 19th, which is a Friday night, and just spent a night in the mountains. So I'm going to actually have to call up there, see how it is and stuff like that. But it definitely has, which at the end of the day, it's not really important at all. I mean, leaves are leaves. We all love it when the leaves change, but you know, people's lives up there is more important, and making sure they have the resources and everything they need. That's for sure. So I guess where I was getting at this is that these cooler temperatures will certainly kickstart significantly the turning of the leaves, even far south here in the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee, North Georgia. So at least the surroundings can become colorful and beautiful. God's paintbrushes, what I like to call it, many people call it, and you know, can somehow provide some sort of positivity around such a negative situation. So God bless all y'all. I know I kind of rambled there at the end. You know I'm good for that. And you folks have a great Thursday, and I will talk to you soon. God bless.